mistakes that can be made without you even knowing about it that make you liable to get sued. And it doesn't mean you should walk around paranoid everywhere you go, but paranoid enough to do something about it and protect yourself when things arise.
Garrett, what's going on?
What's going on, Michael?
So I love sharing, stories with you about stuff, and we've both, had some interesting experiences. Today, we're talking about asset protection and lawsuits, and how we might be able to avoid them. But I was wondering, were you ever involved in some kind of legal, battle of some sort? And
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. So I owned my first company before I met you guys. We had about 3,400 apartments and we self-managed everything. And owning a property management company, you're just going to have lawsuits because you have just so many people. You have people that you're a little bit closer to the action is, you're housing them. And then you have a lot of employees, a lot more employees. So there's exposure in different areas, things that you can't even control. So I think the most lawsuits or pending, I think that I had at one point, and I was just like, this is crazy. It was 11. And so one of the more notable ones I remember is at the time, someone involved in my organization emailed one of our employees, one of our community directors, and mentioned something about their pregnancy. And it was just like one sentence, something out of pregnancy, and that put us into a tailspin. And all of a sudden we were on the hook for maybe as much as $250,000, just because of this one sentence in an email that was just a stupid comment about a pregnancy that is like something you never touch. You don't ever go near that. And this person in my organization didn't know that. And now we're in the middle of this battle, trying to figure out how to get out of this. And we got really lucky because the person that was involved on the other side didn't lawyer up, and they just took it straight to mediation. And so we were able to kind of spit out of it and get away with like 20,000, like settling at 20,000, but we could have easily been exposed up to, again, $250,000. And there's a lot of mistakes that can be made without you even knowing about it that make you liable to get sued. And it doesn't mean you should walk around paranoid everywhere you go, but you should be paranoid enough to do something about it and protect yourself when things arise. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately been in court a little bit here and there through the restaurants. As we started losing money, we started defaulting on our leases. I sold a restaurant to a gal on seller financing, and then she defaulted on it. I think the most relevant one and eye-opening was during the house flip days. Literally, like 5 days before, 3 days after that we sold her the house, she filed a lawsuit. It was like for $500,000. It was about the floor is crooked, the roof is leaking when we bought all these things. The woman had 2 inspections, possibly 3, because it was an FHA loan. And she waited literally 3 years to file a lawsuit. And she didn't just sue me, she sued my broker as well. So she was looking for money. And it was a $500,000 suit. Of course, everything was complete baloney. But now you have to hire an attorney, which costs money. And it went to mediation, thankfully, and we settled for like $3,000. She got $3,000 out of me and $3,000 out of my agent, and a lot of emotional, strain in the entire time. And that was, and so I paid my attorney like $10,000, and I settled for 3, and the profit in the deal at the time was only like $15,000. So literally, the entire profit evaporated through this one suit. And it could have been a lot worse, right? I mean, it could have been a lot worse. And so this litigation, this liability that can, like this one sentence that you talked about, it can happen like that. And so you have to be aware of this. You have to be aware of the downside, the legal downside through lawsuits. It's just so easy in our country to sue another person. It's so simple. And so you need to, obviously do things to avoid these situations. You need to be above boards, do business the right way. But then you also need to make sure you get insurance. Like, for example, I did not have insurance to cover a lawsuit. The insurance you get on a house, for example, is for the property itself, and possibly when someone faults while you own it and build it. Okay, but it doesn't cover lawsuits 3 years later. You don't have that, and in your personal umbrella doesn't cover lawsuits from a deal you did 3 years ago. So you're essentially completely exposed.
Yeah,
Uh,
and on top of that, like assault and battery coverage is so expensive. And that you have a shooting on it, you don't even just hear it on the news and something happens, all of a sudden, that's a thing, right? And if you're not insured for that, you're getting sued by somebody involved in that, even though you had nothing to do with it.